Hi, welcome back. I'm sitting in a different spot today in the house. I just felt like not going into the studio today and seeing also if I could manage to be a little bit less pale in the camera. And it turns out that this spot, which is kind of uncomfortable for recording, I look a little bit less white. Although my wrist is actually kind of see through. You can actually see my veins. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit today about guns. This is this is a very touchy topic. It always is a very touchy topic, but since there have been two shootings in the last week, I think that it's kind of appropriate. I Let's just get a couple of things um, kind of out of the way. Uh, some reporters in the news are claiming that there have been 7 mass shootings in the last week. They want you to believe that this is sort of like an epidemic, and it's not, because they never reported on any of the other shootings, and the reason for that is because the other shootings that were not reported on were gang related, and as we know, the media doesn't actually care about gang violence and how it's affecting Black communities, minority communities, and killing people who are, you know, either in the gangs or innocent bystanders. They don't care about this stuff. And oftentimes, actually, pretty much every one of those instances, an illegal gun was used, um, because they're happening in cities where you can't even own a gun if you are a law-abiding citizen, let alone someone with a rap sheet. So these mass shootings, it's amazing. They're willing to throw that statistic out there when they've never reported on it. So you go, wait, hang on, there were 7? I never heard about 7. Of course you didn't hear about 7, and that is why. There have been 2 shootings in the last week or so, and one of them I spoke about in my last video was in Georgia, a couple of massage parlors, and by this white guy who was a self-proclaimed sex addict, and he killed a few people in these massage parlors who happened to be Asian, but he also did kill a few other people. But we'll get into that. Let me give you a little bit of my history on guns and gun knowledge. I, up until the last few years, didn't have a lot of gun knowledge. I've always been pro 2A because I am pro Constitution, but I didn't know anything. My husband, he knows a lot about guns, and he would teach me things, and it wasn't tangible for me because I never held one. I didn't really understand what I was listening to. I'm a more hands-on kind of person. So we moved out of the city and we got our first rifle, and I learned about cleaning it, and we have one that comes apart, so I learned about taking it down and putting it back together properly, and how to properly load the gun, and everything, safety, going to the range, learning how to shoot, learning how to clean the gun. It's a big process, and I think what a lot of non-gun owners don't know is that a good law-abiding gun owner understands gun safety basics, and once you understand the basics, and once you've held a gun and you've shot a gun, you respect it a little bit more. And there's no way that you can hold a gun as a law-abiding gun owner and not respect what this can do and what you can do to prevent accidents and bad things from happening. So I probably don't go as much as I should. My husband likes to go to the range, and sometimes I can think of better things to do. But as I'm waiting for my pistol permit to come through, I'm really excited about learning to shoot a pistol. Things about being a gun owner is that, or gun enthusiast, is there's so many different things to know about how a gun works. And I did take a safety course, and a lot of what I heard was stuff that my husband had already taught me, but it was kind of nice to take notes and really learn the ins and outs and the parts of the gun, and different kinds of guns, and from a revolver to semi-automatic and rifle and shotgun and all that stuff. And there is a whole world to this. People do this. People have guns for so many reasons, and nobody owes you an explanation why they have them. It is our right. They are first and foremost a weapon to protect. And we in this country, we have a right to protect ourselves, and there's a reason for that. And if you don't understand the foundation of this country, I suggest you teach yourself a thing or two about why this country even exists. And the 2A is part of that. What people don't realize is that most shooting is done at the range. So when they try to limit how much ammo you can buy, I don't think people understand when you go to the range, you can easily go through 100 rounds. Rounds meaning bullets. You know, if you're going to the range for an hour or two and you're shooting, you're probably going through at least 100 rounds easily. That's why ammo is cheap, because it's something you're usually just wasting them. And the reason we do that is it's fun. It's kind of fun to get it kind of out of, it's a good way to release any kind of stress. But also it's good for practicing, because if you're going to own a gun, I strongly recommend that you practice. You should not own something like that you don't understand how to use. Because if it really came down to having to protect yourself or your family, there's no point. If you own a gun that you don't know how to use, it will get used against you, or you won't have enough time to act quickly and you're dead. So practicing is really important. So people go to the range. That's where most shooting is done. People have a right to walk around and feel protected. And it doesn't matter if you're in an isolated area where I hear this argument about, well, this is a less dense area. You're less likely to have police officers, or yeah, those guys should have guns. But if you live in a more condensed area, you don't need one. That's not true. That's not for you to say. Anything can happen in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. By the time it takes for the police to arrive, you already could be dead. So, and as a girl and as someone who happens to be very little, if you met me, I'm very short. I love the idea of being able to carry something for protection on me. As it is, I carry a knife on me. I don't know if I would be able to do very much with it, but I do like that comfort knowing that I do have something to protect myself at all times. My husband always likes to make sure that I am armed, because he is a feminist in that way, if you will. But let's talk about the mass shootings that have been going on and some of the misinformation. So what happens every time there's a mass shooting in this country? The first question we ask is, what color was the shooter? And the reason we ask this question is because the race of the shooter will determine how the media will report this. If the shooter is white, we will hear for weeks about white supremacy and the evils of racism and how the foundation of this country even played a role in this shooting. Obviously our forefathers empowered the white murderer to kill people. That's the general idea. The shooter in Boulder, Colorado is an Arab Muslim from Syria. The shooter, the media reported he was a white man at first. And then they proceeded to blame all white men for being white supremacists and who murder everyone who isn't white. Turns out he wasn't white. And a bunch of media personalities, they had to delete their tweets and issue apologies like idiots. He killed only white people. So the Syrian, migrant, he killed white people. Was that a racist shooting? No. He was just a mentally ill loser with a gun. Who was known to the FBI, by the way, but still obtained a gun. After background checks. So I'm willing to agree this probably wasn't a racist shooting. But on the alternative side, the guy who shut up the massage parlors in Georgia, he was branded a racist because the employees were Asian that he killed. But never mind that a few white people were killed as well in these shootings, and we don't even speak about them. Then it breaks apart their narrative. But I think it is kind of a shame that every time people get shot in any kind of these mass killings that we politicize them. It's so disrespectful. But unfortunately, I do have to point out that some of the victims in the Georgia massage parlor shootings, they were white. I believe there was a handyman there, and one of them was a client who was getting a massage, and she was killed. If the shooter isn't white, we're more likely to hear about mental illness, though, being a factor, and why we need gun reform. And gun reform is the wet dream of the left. They neither understand guns, The difference between law-abiding gun owners and a criminal who has a gun, they don't understand this, and they never differentiate between the two. You have millions upon millions of law-abiding gun owners who play by the rules, who know the safety, who know what not to do. And then you've got criminals. They never differentiate between the two. In fact, they kind of lump us all in. There are laws in place, such as federal background checks already. This is the norm. We go to the gun. We go to the gun store. We love our gun store. Good people. And every time we want to buy a gun, they run a federal background check. It takes some time, and we're cool with that. Whatever. And then and once that's done, we can leave with our gun. But they either work or they don't. And then you hear the terms that they throw out to, in the headlines and as scare tactics like semi-automatic. A semi-automatic weapon was used, an AR-15 style rifle, or an assault weapon. Those are thrown around by the layperson who doesn't own a gun, who doesn't understand that an assault weapon is a made-up term. So an assault weapon can be anything. It can be a pencil. Anything that can cause injury is an assault weapon because you're assaulting someone with a weapon. A knife could be an assault weapon. A gun, it is a made up term. There are assault rifles. Those are illegal. We can't get those. That's military stuff. That's military rifles. But you wouldn't know that. Why would you know that? Semi-automatic. Mass murderer shoots up grocery store with a semi-automatic rifle. Semi-automatic describes just about every gun in production that doesn't include revolvers and maybe one or two other exceptions. Just about every gun that you see is a semi-automatic gun. Most rifles and pistols are semi-automatic. It means you pull the trigger once and one bullet comes out. So when I see people posting memes or repeating talking points about common sense gun laws, which is just another made up term for we're going to eventually take your guns, or things like the Second Amendment was written when guns only shot one bullet a minute, so we should reform the laws since things have changed with guns. I unfortunately have to come to the conclusion that I'm smarter than you, and that you should stop talking about things that you don't know anything about. Are you stupid? I saw this today, that because the Constitution was written at a time with different guns, that means that the law needs to change now, is one of the most pinheaded, ignorant, and just reductive arguments. And I don't like using the word reductive, but it is. Why would I want to make a gun less efficient and less effective just because times have changed? Why would I want a gun? Guns are safer now than they've ever been. They're less likely to fail. Why would I want my gun to have a 2-bullet capacity and shoot 1 bullet every minute? Which, by the way, is inaccurate. I did look it up, and guns around that time on average shot about 3 or 4 bullets per minute. And the way that they shot, also, they were really inaccurate. You're talking about, heavy gunpowder, large shells. Have you ever tried shooting one of those things? The recoil alone, it's going to knock you backwards. It would knock me backwards. They shot inaccurately. So I bet if you're not a gun owner, you don't understand aiming, recoil, and missing shots. And as a woman, if I can only shoot 2 bullets from a gun, and I'm likely to miss, I'm dead. What's the point? And again, this is what happens when people who don't know anything about guns talk on the topic of guns. What is recoil? I mentioned recoil. Recoil is you have different caliber bullets and they pack a different kind of punch. It also matters what is the barrel length, meaning the length of the barrel of the gun. The barrel is where the bullet comes out of. And if you have a long rifle, let's say you're shooting a 9mm, you're likely to have less recoil than, let's say, a pistol shooting a 9mm. And this depends on your expertise level, how often you train, and again, the power or the caliber of the bullet you're using. But you wouldn't know this. You wouldn't know that most of the time shots are missed. And so this notion that you only need 1 or 2 bullets or, reducing the capacity of magazines, it's ignorant, it's dangerous, It's just plain lazy and stupid. Most gun owners are law-abiding, and they understand basic safety. Most of the ammo we buy are used at the range. I think I said that before. This is so we can practice to continue to be safe gun owners. We like our guns, and frankly, before I owned one, I didn't understand the hype. But then I became a gun owner, and I learned the basics. It's fun. It's empowering as a woman. And I don't usually like to say as a woman or as anything, but yeah, as a woman, it is kind of empowering. And you respect it so much more once you've held a gun and you've had to learn how to handle one. But I don't think these mouthpieces in the media, in the news, or quite frankly, the people that they get to parrot them on social media, I don't think they actually care about victims. I think they're looking for an excuse to getting closer to getting rid of the Second Amendment, to being able to collect guns in their voluntary buybacks, which is BS. Good luck with trying to get people to turn in their 300 million plus guns. Good luck with that. Not going to happen. I love my guns, and I can't wait to add to my collection. Like I said in my last video, I look forward to filming a shooting video at the range once I'm able to. I know that some of this was sort of like mishmashed, but I really wanted to get my opinion out there on guns because this is like a really hot topic issue. The Ninth Circuit federal court just they just what did they do? They repealed a ruling that said that open carry is a right. They're now saying it's not a right. It's going to go to the Supreme Court. Every little thing that they do, it's to get closer and closer to taking guns away from the good people, from the good guys. What happens, in every country that disarms a populace? Do I have to tell you? And you can call me paranoid all you want, but that is history. And if you understand history, you think that if you're so ignorant that you believe it can't happen now. I'm sorry to inform you, it's happening still in parts of the world. You are not going to disarm us. And I strongly encourage those who have never held a gun, who don't understand guns, to get familiar with them. Get your hands on one legally, practice. I think you'll change your tune. I really do. I think that once you actually get your hands on one legally, practice safely, and understand the ins and the outs, you'll find it's not only really interesting, but it's actually kind of addictive. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to release energy and stress and just go to the range. And it's a good bonding thing. It's kind of a hobby unto itself. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this rambling about guns from someone who's sort of a beginner to intermediate gun owner and enthusiast. Tell me what you think. I really want to know what you think about it, and if I missed anything, if I missed any myths or talking points, I'd love to hear your thoughts. This week is my holiday coming up. It's going to be Passover. I probably will make another video next week, but if I don't, it might be because the holiday is a bit crazy. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you again, as always, for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.